Becoming a fossil is one of the rarest things that can happen to a living thing. You have to die in exactly the right place at exactly the right time and be buried fast enough that scavengers and rot and weather don't get to you first. And then you have to lie undisturbed for millions of years while the ground itself turns to stone around you. It almost never works, which is why nearly everything that has ever lived left no trace at all. But every so often the conditions are perfect, and when they are, the earth doesn't just preserve a bone or two, it preserves a moment. It freezes an animal exactly as it was in the last seconds of its life. Not a skeleton laid out neat in a museum, but a creature caught in the act of living, or fighting, or dying. And some of those moments are so vivid, so raw, that looking at them feels less like archaeology and more like staring at a photograph taken 80 million years ago. Today I want to show you those fossils. The ones that didn't just capture an animal, they captured its death. Let's start with the most famous of them all. It's known simply as the Fighting Dinosaurs, and it was pulled out of the Gobi Desert of Mongolia in 1971. And when you understand what you're looking at, it's genuinely hard to believe it's real. It is two dinosaurs locked together. A Velociraptor, the real one, about the size of a turkey, not the movie monster, and a Protoceratops, a stocky, sheep-sized plant-eater with a bony frill and a beak like a parrot. And they are not lying near each other by chance. They are entangled, frozen mid-combat 80 million years ago. Read the bodies and the whole fight unfolds in front of you. The Velociraptor has driven that famous sickle claw on its hind foot deep into the throat of the Protoceratops, right into the area that held the blood supply to the head. A killing blow. With its arms, the raptor is gripping the Protoceratops' frilled head, holding on. But the Protoceratops was not going quietly. It has clamped its powerful beak down on the raptor's right arm and snapped it. You can see the broken bone. So here are two animals, each with a death grip on the other, neither able to let go. And then, in an instant, it was over for both. The leading idea is that a sand dune collapsed on top of them, perhaps triggered by a sudden storm, and buried the pair alive, mid-struggle, in a heartbeat. There's a chilling clue that confirms it. The Velociraptor's neck is frozen in a tight S-curve. When an animal dies and its muscles relax, the neck straightens. The fact that this one is still curved, still tense, tells us it was buried while it was still alive and straining. Two mortal enemies, each landing the blow that would have killed the other, entombed together forever. It's so extraordinary that Mongolia declared it a national treasure, and it's the single best piece of direct evidence we have that these animals really did hunt and fight the way we imagine. Now that fossil captures violence, but the fossil record captures something even more affecting than a fight. It captures tenderness. And to see it, we have to talk about the most unfairly maligned dinosaur in history, oviraptor. When the first one was discovered in the Gobi in the 1920s, it was found lying directly on top of a nest of eggs. And the scientists of the day drew the obvious, damning conclusion. This animal had been caught in the act of stealing them. They named it accordingly. Oviraptor means egg thief. And that name, that accusation, stuck to the entire group for the better part of a century. A whole family of dinosaurs branded as nest robbers, forever. And it was completely wrong. Because as more and more of these fossils came out of the ground, all in the same posture, sitting squarely on top of a nest, limbs spread wide, arms curled protectively around the eggs, paleontologists slowly realized what they were actually looking at. These dinosaurs weren't robbing the nests, they were brooding them, sitting on their own eggs to protect them, exactly the way a hen sits on hers today. The egg thief was a devoted parent, And these fossils captured the ultimate proof of it, because these animals died on their nests. When the sandstorms and dune collapses came, they did not run. They stayed, hunched over their eggs, shielding the next generation with their own bodies, right up until the sand buried them all together. We even have one nicknamed Big Mama frozen in that exact pose. The most slandered dinosaur in the world turned out to have died as a hero. And if that one gets to you, this next one will stay with you for a while, because the fossil record has preserved not just death, but the beginning and end of life in a single stone. These come mostly from ichthyosaurs, the dolphin-shaped marine reptiles that ruled the seas of the age of dinosaurs. And every so often we find a female preserved in the act of giving birth. Ichthyosaurs, unlike most reptiles, didn't lay eggs. They bore live young at sea. And there are fossils where the mother is frozen with a baby emerging from her body, half in, half out. The pup captured tail first, mid-delivery, the way it would have been born, so it wouldn't drown before it was free. In some blocks you can see multiple pups, one still inside her, one halfway out, one that had already been born. An entire birth, arrested and turned to rock. And they are heartbreaking, because they are, of course, a death. Something went catastrophically wrong, a complication in the birth most likely, killing the mother and her offspring together in the water. She sank to the sea floor, and the mud closed over the whole tragedy and held it for 200 million years. To look at one is to look at the single worst moment of an animal's life, and its child's, preserved with a clarity that no textbook could ever match. But not every preserved death is a tragedy of struggle or birth. Some are just unlucky, almost absurdly so. Consider the fossils of animals that died doing the most mundane thing imaginable: eating. There's a fish found in Germany's famous limestone, preserved with a smaller fish still lodged in its throat. It had bitten off, quite literally, more than it could swallow. The meal got stuck, and it choked to death on its own last supper. Both fish, predator and prey, went into the fossil record together, the prey still wedged in the jaws of the thing that tried to eat it. And it's not a one-off. There's a whole grim little category of these. One creature frozen in the act of swallowing another, both of them killed by the attempt. Death by greed, preserved for eternity. And then there are the ones caught mid-journey, going about their day when the world simply ended. Trackways, fossilized footprints, sometimes stop dead. You can follow an animal's steps across ancient mud, and then, at a certain point, the trail just ends, where the creature met whatever killed it. In one remarkable case, there's a trackway that appears to record the final walk of a horseshoe crab, its own body preserved at the very end of its last trail, the animal and the path it walked to its death together in one slab. But of everything in the fossil record, the deaths that hit hardest are the mass ones, the moments when a whole group died at once and the stone kept them together. There are sites where entire herds were wiped out by a single catastrophe, a flash flood, a volcanic ashfall, a collapsing dune, and buried in a heap. In the Gobi again, there are clusters of young dinosaurs found piled together, huddled, in a way that suggests they died sheltering as a group when the sand came. You can see the panic in the arrangement of the bodies. And there are herbivore bone beds where dozens of individuals of every age, infants to adults, all died in the same instant. The entire social structure of a herd frozen in a single layer of rock. What ties all of these together, and what I find genuinely moving about them, is this. Fossils usually give us facts. This bone connected to that bone. This animal was this big. But these fossils give us something else. They give us behavior. They give us the raptor's ferocity and the Protoceratops' desperate defense. They give us the oviraptor's devotion to its eggs. They give us the mother ichthyosaur and the child she never delivered. They give us the exact, specific, individual, final moment of a creature that lived and breathed 100 million years before there was anyone around to witness it. And that's the strange gift of a truly brutal death. The animals that died peacefully, quietly of old age, they mostly rotted away and left nothing. It's the ones that died suddenly, violently, caught in the act, that got buried fast enough to last. Which means the fossil record has a kind of dark bias built into it. It remembers the worst days most clearly. The fights, the disasters, the catastrophes, the moments no one was ever meant to see. We just happen to be the first creatures in the history of the Earth capable of digging them back up, and of feeling something when we do. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep looking up.